that people were like, no, I gotta celebrate the Saturday before because it is
As
just
soon as
too
there
much
was
party.
alcohol involved.
I
When there's
guess.
alcohol involved, and because I think it falls on Tuesday this year, and you can't go get sloshed
Yeah,
on
that's lame.
Tuesday.
I guess
No.
maybe it's always been that way, but I guess I didn't know that people always got sloshed on St. Patrick's Day.
No, but it is definitely the whitest holiday of the year. Like every white person I know is just de facto Irish on that day.
We're a melting pot. We've all got a little.
It's funny, like the one. Well, no, never mind. I won't go into that. But anyway, we're talking about Easter.
Yeah,
Easter's
I
coming
was
up.
so curious what you're gonna say. Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't fully formed, and I know it would just come out sounding super racist. So I just didn't want to say anything because I don't feel super racist about it. I just always find it interesting that people who will say like I'm Polish and they'll celebrate their Polish heritage all year long is like when that holiday comes around, when St. Patrick's Day comes around, all of a sudden they're Irish and huge into drinking, and I'm like, didn't you tell me how Polish you are? Like,
It's my 1% Irish blood.
yes, my 1% Irish blood. That's funny.
That should be the motto of the podcast. The motto of the podcast should be, it's not fully formed, but it might sound super racist.
It's a long title, but very accurate. So we'll get started so Amy doesn't get kicked off. Amy, you still there?
Uh-huh.
All right, cool. So we are talking about Easter traditions. Kara, were you on last year's episode of Easter traditions? I don't remember if you were on that. Okay, well, good. So it's all new people. We talked a little bit about Easter last year, and obviously, as it is in my opinion, the most important holiday on the Christian calendar. Let's talk a little bit about the traditions of the church, I guess, that we go to, and maybe the traditions of our family, and so I guess I can start. Interestingly enough, I have not gone to a brick and mortar church for the last 8 or 9 months. Sat down, talked with my pastor before I left. Wasn't upset about anything the church had done. I was just kind of burned out from some things, and I wanted to kind of explore faith. Kind of not on my own. I've got some people who definitely are asking me questions and praying with me and things like that, but outside of the brick and mortar church. And so it's funny coming up towards Easter, before I was very much gung-ho about, okay, Easter's coming, this is the most important holiday. It's still in my belief the most important holiday in the Christian calendar, and my favorite holiday in the Christian calendar more so than Christmas, because without the death and resurrection of Jesus, all of it's for nothing, as Paul says, right? We are, to be pitied among, worse than anyone else. That's my paraphrase. And so, when you go to church all the time, it's really interesting because Christmas and Easter tend to be holidays when people who don't go to church tend to show up. And I'm sitting here debating, going, should I go to church on Easter? Should I show up and be a C and E? I didn't go to church on Christmas or Christmas Eve or anything, but I'm thinking about going for Easter for a couple of reasons. Because it's the most important Christian holiday of the year, and because since last Easter I bought 3 new suits, and so I could wear a suit on Easter, and so I don't know, I'm kind of torn, but I figure I need to start some new traditions, but. Yeah, so what are you guys doing for Easter? What's been your traditions in the years past and all that?
I never went to a church that did anything special for Easter. I grew up in the Church of Christ, and I don't know if this is the case with all of them, but I know for mine especially, they kind of made a point of not celebrating typical Christian holidays because they wanted to make a point about, well, we should celebrate Jesus' birth all year long, and we should celebrate the resurrection of Christ all year long. And so somehow that, I don't know, like it translated into, so on Easter we will purposefully try really hard to not acknowledge the rest of the world is looking at Christ right now. It didn't make sense to me. Now I, having grown up and formed my own opinion, think it's really wonderful that the whole world is looking. I say the whole world. A lot of people that maybe don't think about Christ on a day-to-day basis are thinking about the resurrection and the fact that God sent His Son down. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for a Christian to be like, you're looking at that? You want to talk about it? I'm around. But as far as like having a church service, we never did anything special like that. was just with my family. We would have dinner together. We'd hide Easter eggs. I always got an Easter basket. There was always ham and potato salad. So it was a good day.
I can't say that I have too many family traditions. I have always gone to church with my family. I still get an Easter basket, and I'm 39, and that's not because I really want one, but Mom just never knew how to stop. So it's more of a ceremonial Easter basket at this point. As involved as I am in my local church, and I'm usually there at least 2 and occasionally 3 days a week. I'm very rarely there for an Easter service because going to church with my now extended family means usually going to wherever my brother is at. So one of these days I would like to experience an Easter service at my own church. It's been a no-go lately, but that's usually there's some food involved after the service.
Amy?
Well, Easter, I remember growing up as a Christian in a Christian home. Easter was always the holiday that you got a new dress, and Kara can probably relate to that. It was always the twirly dress.
Yes.
And that's kind of my childhood memories of Easter is...
I got a twirly dress.
Mhm.
I got a twirly dress.
I'm sitting outside the sanctuary while all the grown-ups are talking, and all the girls are sitting there spinning like whirling dervishes because we have these new twirly dresses. So that's what I relate Easter to when I think of it as a kid. It's like a twirly dress, and which plastic egg hidden in the yard had the money in it as opposed to the chocolate in it, you know? Just kind of... And now I kind of go through the stores and you see an entire row at Walmart dedicated to Marshmallow Peeps in all their various colors and states of, you know, permanent. I mean, those things like don't ever deteriorate. They're like Twinkies, you know. You could take.
I think they're in a state of permanent decay, though. I think they're decaying and not decaying. It's weird.
Well,
they're calcifying.
They're like, I can't explain the Marshmallow Peeps. They just kind of creep me out, by the way.
I can explain them in the microwave. They're really amazing in the microwave.
They make Peeps milk now. Did you see that?
I did. It's like
flavored milk. That's
one of the things that you look at and you think, like, what? How far away from what Easter is really about have we come when these are the things that people look for a chance to, you know, hide eggs in your yard and you'll never find them all, so they'll start to smell and
Are they hiding real eggs or something?
Your Easter egg hunts didn't involve plastic?
Well, you get your little Paws candy, you know, coloring kit.
Right.
Oh, okay, so real eggs. Okay, right. Right now, right, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we definitely want real eggs, and we like hide them in the yard for like all day long, and then we'd often still eat them, and it's amazing we didn't get sick thinking back on it. Eating eggs that have been baking in the sun all day.
That's so gross.
Or then you find one or two of them a week or so later when you're like, I knew there was a funny smell out there.
Yeah.
You just got rotten eggs out front.
Under the begonia, yeah.
I knew a guy who buried the eggs, so they had to go dig the eggs out.
That is good hiding.
That is some good hiding.
That is really good hiding, yeah.
You know, it's funny. I never, growing up, I never really had any of the family-oriented Easter traditions. As a kid, of course, hook, line, and sinker, especially if, you buy into the commercialized version of Easter because, just prior to getting out for Easter break or spring break or whatever, your school would kind of have an Easter party and where you would, have an Easter egg hunt around the school and you would have Easter baskets and chocolate bunnies and those kinds of things in school. But then on Sunday, they do the requisite sermon about Jesus resurrecting from the dead, but a lot of that was lost on me as a kid because I was so, enamored with these, brightly colored eggs and chocolate bunnies and all those kinds of things. So I guess the very pagan side of the Easter story. that Christians often avoid, so to speak. And now, as an adult, I'm looking back on it, and I know all these people who have these Easter traditions where they go to church, but then they also, like you said, Kent, there's going to be food involved somewhere after. My family never did that. It was kind of a mix between your Kent's experience where you go to church and there's the sermon, and Kara's experience where that was just kind of that was the thing you did, and we celebrate Jesus all year round. We celebrate Christ's resurrection all year round, but then there's nothing really, I guess, attached to it otherwise, And so for me, it was just
saying
you
you
got
didn't
home and there
eat?
was nothing else.
So
Say again?
food wasn't a part of your Easter experience. It was
Food was not a part, and still is
a
not.
fast going
To
on.
this day.
Okay.
To this day, I mean, there was no fast. It's like you go home and you eat whatever, but there was no family meal. Family meals were
Okay.
relegated to Christmas and Thanksgiving. Those were family meal times. Easter was never a huge meal until I became an adult and started going to other people's houses and going, "What? You guys eat together on Easter? What have I been missing?"
Any chance to eat.
Well, I
Oh,
think
yes,
it's so
yeah.
interesting, though. There's so many things, even church-wise, that become kind of, I don't know if you'd say secularized, but, I mean, the symbolism behind them is lost, I think. You have, Lent. You'll hear people all the time, even people who aren't believers or go to church, what am I going to give up for Lent? Or Ash Wednesday. I went to a service not a service. One of my old jobs, I worked with this lady who was like the most profound atheist I had ever met. But every Ash Wednesday, she'd go down to the church and get a little mark on her forehead, and she called it her just in case. I'm like, okay, I think that's kind of missing the point, but
Just in
there's-
case what?
I have no idea. Do you think a little cross of ashes on your forehead is going to save you from hell and damnation and when the judgment comes? I mean, I don't know. But I just think maybe Pharisaical is the way to look at it, and that there's a lot of rituals connected to Easter and Lent and this whole season of the year that meaning, like you were talking about, Calvin, of the importance of Easter and what it represents, the bodily resurrection of Christ from the grave, that is lost, not just in the colored eggs and plastic Easter bunny baskets and stuff, but it's lost even in the church sometimes.
In the spirit of not having anything to lose and just saying what is on my mind, I'm glad Amy brought up Lent, because I have to admit, I'm left completely cold by the idea of Lent. Not that I'm anti-Lent, but it was never a part of my observance as a child. And this season started at 1 o'clock or noon or 1 o'clock on Good Friday and was over at 3 o'clock on Easter Sunday. I've noticed that more and more people are asking up for Lent, and I'm mystified, almost on a gut level, mystified by the question, because I don't do anything for Lent, because I'm not Catholic, and so true confessions.
Yeah, I actually I listened to a podcast / radio show out of Moody in Chicago, Moody Radio, and it was a debate. It's a show called Up for Debate, and they asked a question this past Saturday, actually, should Christians celebrate Lent? And it's an interesting conversation, not as groundbreaking as some of their other conversations that they've had, but it was really interesting to hear the perspectives on it. I've never, growing up Pentecostal, never had any kind of experience with Lent. Still don't have really any experience with Lent other than seeing people, with the ashes on their forehead, and people telling me that they're giving something up. But I do remember, I think I told this story last year, but I remember I had two devout Catholic roommates. One of them was actually studying for the priesthood at one point, and had kind of fallen away from that, but was very much into his faith and very much committed to it. And so I got to pick their brains and ask a lot of questions about the Catholic faith that I didn't understand as a Black Pentecostal, and so I remember my roommate saying to me his name. I won't even tell his name. There's no point in saying that. But he was just a jerk. He was a real jerk. I mean, and he was just a mean, bitter jerk of a person. And I remember him telling me, "I'm giving up potato chips for Lent." And I don't want to take his sacrifice away from him, but he was like, "You don't understand what it's like when I don't have chips in me. Like, I'm just really, it drives me crazy. I'm addicted to them. I need to have them. It's like cigarettes." And my thought was, why don't you keep eating the chips so you're less of a jerk and sane enough to maybe give up being a jerk? Keep eating the chips and start being kind. Stop. Give up being a mean person for Lent.
My thought when you said that he was a jerk, but he said you don't know what I'm like when I don't have the chips. It's like, are you worse when you don't have the chips?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, if he's gonna get worse, please keep eating the chips.
But that's such a good point, because what shows your faith in Christ, and what is the the most Christ-like way to live your life, or to try to live your life? Is it to spend 30 days not eating polysaturated fried potatoes? Or is it, like you said, to stop being a jerk and try to show some compassion towards other people around you? I mean, it's just, you're talking to a literal card-carrying member of the Church of Scotland, so I'm about as Presbyterian as you can get. It's just like, I probably have the most liturgical background of the four of us here, and I'm like, and I don't even get that. I'm like, seriously? To me, Lent is something that people want to spend 30 days updating their Facebook status to look how holy I am because I'm not eating chocolate, or I'm not giving up gluten, or whatever.
Right. Is it 30? I was thinking it was 40 days.
I don't know how many days.
I don't know how many days it is. I don't even care. But I feel like it's terrible of me. I don't want to take anything away, and it's in the same breath, I don't want to take anything away from anybody's heartfelt sacrifice. But I do also feel like at the same time I get to have my personal feelings about it, and I do feel like a lot of what people give up for Lent. This is a sweeping generalization, but it's kind of first world Lent. It's very first world Lent. I should make that a hashtag next year. Hashtag First World Lent. I'm giving up potato chips.
I use Lent as a diet before Easter.
Yeah.
They give up
my 40-day weight loss plan. I'm going to give up carbs for Lent, and then I'll lose weight, and then yay Jesus.
And I can fit into my twirly dress on Easter. But yeah, I feel like people give up things that are easy to give up. Or aren't really, it's almost like I feel like Jesus would look and say, okay, the whole thing with Lent, I like the idea behind Lent because you're supposed to align yourself with the sacrifice Christ made for our lives, right? And that's what Easter is all about, right? And so it's working its way towards Easter. And so as you continue to sacrifice, you get closer to Christ's sacrifice. I see that. I get that. But I almost feel like some of the things I've heard people giving up for Lent, I almost feel like Christ just looks at that as like, is that what I died for?
Is that what I'm worth to eat?
So you can stop eating Lay's? I bet you can eat just one. You can give that up. It's like, that's not what I died for. I didn't die for the sins of the world, so you could align with that by giving up Frito-Lay potato chips. And that's really me going in on my old roommate. But like you said, some people try to lose weight. Some people give up but then some people give up things that I would say are first world Lent, but like television. Like my church used to go on these fasts for 30 days of no television, and as a kid you hate that because you're like, I just want to watch television. Now as an adult I'm going, if I stop watching television, I can't imagine how much time I would get back and how I would not be inundated with as many advertisements for things that I don't need or worldviews that I do not agree with, but I make excuses for all the time because the story is entertaining, things like that. So I don't want to take it away from everybody, but it's definitely I feel it's also just definitely a problem that we've got this first world approach to Lent for sure.
It's a good discipline, I think. It can become kind of an empty tradition, though, if it's not like, something that you kind of do from like the bottom of your soul, really. I mean, it isn't, I don't know where it is in scripture, but where Jesus says, when you fast, don't go stand on the street corners and be like, everyone look at me, I'm fasting. But, it's a private thing. It's between you and God. And so it's kind of like my issue with, saying, everyone, look at me. I'm sacrificing and not having this Coke today for Jesus. It's a little bit like, I mean, I understand telling somebody because you maybe want some accountability, or telling somebody because you're like, hey, I'm not really trying to be a jerk. I just can't eat that because I gave it up for a couple days. I think it's a really, really good discipline, but I think it's a discipline between you and Christ to kind of help you focus. That's how it is for me anyway. I don't do the Lent thing, but every once in a while I will give something up, and it's like whenever I think I want, whatever, that piece of chocolate, I'm like, I want chocolate. Okay, it's a good time to pray. Think about just kind of the trigger associates. I'm giving up something. I'm going to talk to God right now, and it kind of gets me a good pattern of thinking about Him more often, which is a good thing to do.
And I will be the first to admit that, because Kara mentioned Coke, Jesus is so important that I would give up anything for Jesus, but Lent is so unimportant that I'm not going to give up Coke.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if God's up there going, good job, you gave up Coke, good job. That's what it's all about.
Well, I guess that might depend on what kind of Coke you're talking about here. If it's
Fair point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to give up regular Coke, but cherry Coke, good job. Good job.
Diet Coke with lime.
Diet Coke, that's good.
Was I the only one who got cocaine from that?
Well, there was cocaine in the original Coca-Cola. That's how it got its name.
There was,
anyhow,
yes.
We will stop there. I didn't expect us to talk about Lent, so that's kind of cool. So I ended up going. So I believe the title of that episode will be #FirstWorldLent. Yeah. I think that works. So I'm going to hang up, and we will do one about patriotism and the flag. So.
Yep.